Doug Sesserman. Welcome to our hashtag Webinar Wednesdays webinar series. We're live on Facebook. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, thank you. And for those of you who are coming to participate again, we really appreciate your attendance. This is our 21st webinar since March, and we just love explaining the great work of Ben-Gurion University happening in Israel. As you know, the format for this is that if you give us an hour, we're going to give you a glimpse into one of the most exciting institutions in Israel that's vital to its future with remarkable research. And today we are going to go on a journey to the southern tip of the country, to Eilat, one of our three campuses, Beersheba, Sde Boker, and Eilat. In Eilat, we're going to do a deep dive, not quite into the Red Sea, although that's a really fun thing to do. We're going to learn about the programming at our Eilat campus with a focus on our hotel and tourism management. We're also going to learn about marine biology and the great work happening there in marine sciences and sea tech. And then we're going to learn about this burgeoning tech center and ecosystem for startup companies in Eilat. We have great panelists. You're going to hear from them in a moment. Yaniv Paria, Nadav Shashar, and Or Haviv. So with that, just to remind everybody, the way the webinar works is if you have a question, click on the Q&A function and ask your question there. I'll then do my best to moderate those questions throughout the webinar, and we'll leave about 10 minutes at the end to open it up to anything else that we haven't covered throughout the presentations. I just want to thank Melody Mokhtarian, Kara Bortman, and Ronnie Strongen, who've worked so hard behind the scenes to curate this webinar and all the great work that we do. So with that, let's get started. Our first speaker, Yaniv Paria. It was a pleasure being with you a little over a year ago live when we toured the Eilat campus, and we drove down from Beersheba and stopped at Kibbutz Keturah. I missed those days. Someday we'll be doing that live again, but for now we're virtual. For the audience, Yaniv is the academic director of BGU's Eilat campus and also the chairman of the Department of Hotel and Tourism Management, which is part of our Guilford Glaser Faculty of Business Management. His research focuses on the management of heritage sites, as well as special population segments that are often ignored in tourism literature, in particular members of the LGBTQ community, as well as people with disabilities. He's also an expert in the study of gender in tourism. Yaniv is from Rehovot. He earned his BA in Tourism and Hospitality Management from BGU and received his PhD from England's Surrey University. Welcome, Yaniv. Great to see you.
Hello, Doug. It's a pleasure. First and foremost, I would like to thank, I'm delighted for the opportunity to present Eilat campus in front of everyone, of the people, of the friends in AABGU, and I would like to thank all the people that worked behind the scene for this presentation to come through. The Eilat campus is one of the most important campuses in Israel. And in a minute, I'll try to explain you why I think it's one of the most important campuses. Eilat campus was initiated in 2002. It was initiated by the Israeli government, and the Ben-Gurion University took the responsibility on this campus. There are very unique attributes to this campus, which I would like to share with the audience, and unfortunately, people are not aware of. Eilat campus, it's unique in the teaching experience which it provides for the students. While saying unique teaching experience, what actually do I mean by this? In our classrooms, there are very small numbers of students, and this is very important for the Israeli students. The level of teaching and the atmosphere is very unique in Eilat campus, and I would like to highlight that as most of the students in Eilat campus, most of them, not all of them, are not first generations for higher education. It means that they are coming from a different background. So if you go in Beersheba campus, and then you'll go in Eilat campus, you will see a different type of students. However, we give them the chance. We open the gates. We provide them the opportunity to purchase education, to have a higher education, which they cannot do in any other university. By giving them the best teachers, the best lectures which we can, we promote their academic abilities. And when studying with us, they have the chances to get their degree. And why this is so important, one may ask, and why it should be in Eilat. People who are familiar with Israel know that the people living in Tel Aviv are significantly different, or Haifa or Jerusalem are not the same, are coming from a different background like the people living in Eilat. If Eilat wants to have teachers, social workers, people who work in economics, people who work in the hotel and tourism management industry, if there will be no university in Eilat, and this is my political agenda, my view is that the Jewish population in Eilat would leave Eilat. I would like to refer to what the mayor said to me once. Actually, he said it quite a lot. The two most important people for him, or the two most important institutions for him, are the hospitals and the university. The university help the mayor keep the Jewish population in Eilat. Otherwise, they may leave the city. I'm sorry to say, but unfortunately, this is the situation. For the last 3 years, we are putting a lot.
Yaniv, one of the things we've communicated as part of prior webinars is the role of the university in the development of the region. That we're a big employer, an economic engine, a place where people get educated, a cultural center. But I want to make sure that you share with the audience the specific programs that we run in Eilat versus the other campuses.
Okay, so there are 12 programs in Eilat campus. 8 of them are for first degree, and 4 of them are for the second degree. We cannot open new programs. We take the programs that are run in Marcus campus, and we make a copy-paste to Eilat campus with the same standards, with the same lectures, providing and examples for the title are psychology, economics, first year engineering, biology, education, art. All these kind of opportunities are open to the people who come to Eilat to study there. However, and this is something that I would like to highlight, a lot of people coming from different places in Israel to study in Eilat. And our mission is that by studying there, whether it's art, whether it's education, whether it's economics, whether it's first year whether it's engineering or business management, they will stay in the city. It will help the city of Eilat to keep quality people that will inspire the local population, that will contribute to the local economy. In the last 3 years, and this is kind of amazing, we have a growth in the numbers of students who are applying to the campus, and we more than double the students' numbers. So in the last 3 years, there is the growth in the numbers of students who started to learn is 106%. Just to give you the impression, in Beersheba, the growth is 14%. We grow by 106%. It's by the fact
some of the programs you're describing are, I would call it maybe, or we might understand in the States, is almost a junior college function. In other words, students go to Eilat for their initial studies, and then they graduate from the Beersheba campus.
Not necessarily. We have also second degree, and we have also a PhD program under Nadav Shashar, which will speak about it in marine biology. So we have also the second degree and the PhD.
Right.
So
what I'm trying to do is get you to tease out the general studies from the hotel tourism, which is one of the top ranked programs in the world, actually, BGU under your leadership, and then Nadav is going to talk about the marine sciences.
Yeah, it's very interesting because in the case of the hotel and tourism management program, which is the most highly ranked based on the Shanghai model, I think we are now around the 56th place in the world. There is actually, even though the COVID-19, unfortunately, we are living under the COVID-19, there is a flourish in the numbers of students who came to learn in Eilat. So we have a growth of around 90% of students specifically in this program, which is a very interesting topic. Why did it happen? And my explanation for this was that because of this COVID-19, people think that now in order to work in the tourism and hospitality industry, you need to have an education. It's not that everyone can do it. You need to have an education and you need to have a great education. But I would love in the couple of minutes, which I have only 4 minutes left, to speak about the future of the campus, because I would love to highlight the potential that exists there. And I would like to speak.
Before you do that, can you just focus a little bit more on the hotel and tourism, because it's really a unique part of our program. And when I was with you before, you talked a little bit about local and sort of the philosophy that you have. So somebody is educated there and then they become an entrepreneur or they work in hotel, established change. What are they bringing that's unique from their education?
So what we are unique at is the fact that we do not teach our students how to do tourism. We teach them how to manage tourism. So we are in contrast to other departments in Israel or other departments in the world, we put the emphasis on the management of the industry. So we are part also of the Faculty of Management. And during these days, it's become a great advantage to our students. So our students, if you go in the corridors right now, of course, you are not able to do it because of the COVID-19, but generally speaking, hotel chains, tourism industry, high-tech companies are looking forward to enroll our students in the companies specifically because of their unique qualities, because we learned them and we taught them how to manage. And we are very proud in our courses. Just to give you an example, we are the first department in the world to teach the management of an accessible tourism experience. Not the first one in Israel, but the first one in the world. We are very proud of this, that other universities in the world contact us in order to copy this course. And this is a sign for the spirit of innovation that we have in our degree and in this specific program in hotel and tourism management. Can I speak a bit about the CTEC?
Sure.
Yeah. If you ask me what is the future, where does it lie? So I would like to emphasize the CTEC. And based on different forecasts in Israel and abroad, we believe that the high-tech industry is going to the sea to find some food there, to find cosmetics. We would like to contribute to the knowledge. We would like the students that will be enrolled in our campus will push forward this industry. And in the next couple of years, we try to build a new program that will help the Israeli economy. Right now, we are not speaking about the people only of Eilat and the Arava. We are speaking about the Israeli economy that will have to rely on the sea and the high-tech coming from the sea and different things that will come out of the sea to push it forward. And this is something that we would like to push forward, and this is where we think the future is, and this is where we try to contribute not only to Eilat and the Arava, but also to the local economy.
Thank you very much. Do you have one more last comment, or can we move to Nadav?
Yeah, my last comment is that people think, unfortunately, that Ben-Gurion University is Be'er Sheva. Often people forget about Sde Boker, and unfortunately also about Eilat. I would like to invite all the people of AA BGU to come and visit us, to see what we are doing. It's a campus that if you're entering the campus, you will be excited. You'll be excited to see the students who put a lot of effort in learning because we gave them the opportunity. And you will be excited to see how the university contributes to the local population. And if you have the chance to speak in people on the streets, just regular people in Eilat, the way they admire the university, because they understand what is our contribution to the Eilat, to the people of Eilat and the people of the Arava. Thank you, Doug, for this opportunity. And I do apologize. I don't know what happens to the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Yaniv. I think you did a nice job explaining things even without the presentation, and we got to see your very attractive face. And I love your glasses.
Thank you.
And for those who haven't met Yaniv yet, please visit him on the Eilat campus. He loves to show people around. He's quite the style and dude, among other things. Thank you, Yaniv. Okay, Professor Nadav Shashar.
Hello.
Of the department. Welcome. Let me give you a little bio of you and then you can give your talk. He's with the Department of Life Sciences and is the coordinator of the Marine Biology and Biotechnology program at BGU's Eilat campus. And he heads the BGU Dolphin Reef Laboratory. An amazingly cool place to visit. In collaboration with colleagues from universities in Jordan, remember that Eilat shares its banks with Jordan and also Egypt, along with Israel. Nadav implemented the placement of artificial coral reefs in the Red Sea to reduce environmental pressure on the region's natural reef and restore marine life. His lab also focuses on sensory ecology and the examining of what information is available to dolphins and other marine animals and how they communicate or make use of this information. Professor Shashar was born in Jerusalem. He received his BS in biology and his master's in zoology at Tel Aviv University. And he received his PhD in biology from the University of Maryland. Professor Shashar, I love hearing from you. Please share with the audience a little bit about your work.
Hello, and thank you so much for inviting me and for having me here. What I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give some teasers about the research we are doing. But before that, about our studies, we have a program from bachelor's all the way to PhD. And in fact, some of our students are already faculty at other universities, at Tel Aviv, at Ben-Gurion, and in the Hebrew University.
Your program is in Hebrew or in English?
Pardon?
The education for your program, is it in Hebrew or in English?
Okay, so here's the rule at Ben-Gurion University, and it's everywhere. As of the third year, if there is one student that requires or just asks, doesn't even have to explain why, they want to have studies in English, then the studies are in English. So right now we have in our, actually every year, but right now we have in our master's program a student from Vietnam, and so all the teachings are in English, and that's fine.
So if
it's much easier.
If I do my undergraduate work in the States and I'm interested in a master's in marine biology, I can come to Ben-Gurion University's Eilat campus and get my degree.
Yes, definitely and happily.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we look at where we are, this is the campus of Eilat, and this is the city of Eilat. And then if we look at different institutes that we are involved in, so there is a National Center of Mariculture. Some of our students are working there. Of course, the International Laboratory of Dolphin Research, we're going to talk about it, and the Inter-University Institute of Marine Sciences. So our researchers and our studies are spread all over the city and all over the coast. If we actually look at the sea, then we have several sites. We have a site here near the border of floating coral nurseries. We just received last week an area to do reef rehabilitation over here in the north part. We are going to talk about the sea balconies. Doug, you visited the oil jetty here. And we did the artificial reef, which Doug mentioned in this area, but we are not going to talk about it today. So I'm going to talk about teasers, and let's start with dolphins. Our laboratory actually focused on different aspects of dolphins' behavior, from communication to communication with people, and all the way to dolphin-assisted therapy. Much of the work is actually done in collaboration with people from abroad. In fact, we have a system that actually transfers information all the time right now to France and to the UK. The lab itself is positioned, this is the dolphin reef area. All what you see here, fence, is just for people, it's make-believe. Underneath here, there is nothing, so dolphins go in and out. In fact, during the last storm, all this area here was destroyed. Now there is a different structure for people, but the lab itself is sitting over here, so we have a great view of everything that goes around. One of the things that we talk about and we work about communication with dolphins, and you might—
In fact, Nadav, I believe this is just, my point of view, but I'm pretty confident you have the nicest office view of any person in all of Israel.
Probably so, and there are only a few in the world that have similar offices. Anyway, as you might know, dolphins talk with each other. They have whistles, and they actually have names that they call each other, and they have each their own signature whistle. And these are of 5 dolphins from the reef. And this one is the signature whistle of Nana, and that's her signature whistle of 94. And that's how the signature whistle looked like. These are spectrograms 20 years later, and it didn't change because this is her name and the name didn't change, and just like my name did not change. Now, we've been studying the signature whistle, and then we found something which is new and novel, and that is that dolphins mention the signature whistles of other dolphins that are long dead or that left. So they have something of remembering the passed away, which is long-time memory, very exciting. We don't know yet if they actually remember the individual or they say something. Like if I will say that, let's say I do a Moses thing and I call people a lot, then I might mean Moses, but I also mean that I took people and moved them to do something they didn't want to do. So we don't know which is it. Did the name become an object or is it really a name? And that's what we are working on. So this is something which we found recently, quite recently, and that was with collaboration from Cambridge University.
So in essence, the animal that doesn't just live in the moment, actually has dolphins have memory of the past.
Yes, they do, definitely do. Another thing, we look at dolphins' human interaction. Why do they actually come to people? And this is something which was found. And also, how do they look at people? How do they look at tourists? Do they look at them as an audience just there, or do they look at individuals? And this is another thing which we look at, not right now during the COVID-19, but when there is more people in the reef. And the last thing, Miss Sophie Donio, who did a master with us, and we give the support for her, the scientific support, developed a program of dolphin-assisted therapy in which children mainly or adolescents with different needs come and they have special experience with the dolphins. And if anybody wants to check the movie Dolphin Boy, you'll find quite a bit about this story. So this was just a teaser about what's going on with the dolphin reef. We'll talk about conservation and restoration in corals. We're going to talk about coral nurseries, about compassionate marine construction, and about the science fiction of growing tissue culture and putting it back to the reef. So let's start with coral nurseries. This is a coral nursery which is floating somewhere near the border with Jordan. And the idea is that you take coral fragments and you collect them. This is collected after the recent storm that hit Eilat in March. You turn them into small fragments, and then with that, you put them, transfer them on special trays, and you put them into a nursery. Now that you let them grow, and the nice thing here is that we know that corals grow slowly, but we can make them grow 5 times as fast as in nature. And the reason is that we give them a better water flow, and they don't have any predators around, and we move the nursery by the light that they need, and different things like that. So they grow much faster. And once they grow much faster, we can move them to places that were destroyed, and then we go transfer them and plant them. Just plant them one by one if we want, like that, even tag them. And this is the way this reef looks now. Most of the corals that you see here, not only the ones which are tagged, are all corals that have been planted. And this reef has been planted about 10 years ago, actually 9, and it looks flourishing as ever. Now, today, what we know how to do is not only to have something like one by one coral, but we actually can take 10 yards square area and bring the reef, a flourishing reef, to a sandy patch, just put it there and turn it into a coral reef. We grow this frame in the nursery and move it to the location that we want. Like 10 by 10 yards, it's pretty large. Now we have rope nurseries and the same idea. The other thing is that these coral nurseries now become coral islands and they are floating in the ocean. So we don't have to compete on the beach, which is very expensive, and we go and make these coral islands, and they become attraction by themselves, as you can see them here.
Nadav, we're getting a question from Gary DeBode, who's also president of the board. He's asking, is the new reef that you plant, is it more resistant than the previous reef to weather damage or whatever happened?
Well, the end of the presentation is going to say exactly how we are actually getting more resilient corals. And yes, we can get more resilient corals now. We know how to do it. But this is something else. This is the can't we all get along question. And the thing is that if you look at any coastline, then there is marine construction. And usually marine construction and people don't get along. So what we ask is how can we build things that will have biodiversity? So Doug, you've walked on this old jetty in Eilat. It's the old jetty, which was now abandoned. And it has pillars in it. And on the pillars, there are some corals growing, but they are falling all the time. So what we plan on doing, is actually putting balconies all around them, more and more balconies, and then corals will grow on them, or we'll plant corals from the nursery, basically, and fish will come and we'll have it all going. So these are the balconies which are being put in the water slowly by divers. The dolphins come there and check us out all the time, especially since we don't want to engage them. So then they really are pushy, and trying to work with a wrench when a dolphin is holding the other side is a strange experience. And this is the way the balconies looked as of last week, just empty balconies. This is Asa Oren, the students sitting on one. And actually just today, we put in the settlement plates all around them, all 4 of them. And that was today, and at 2 o'clock our time, we came out of the water.
If I'm a tourist and I go diving in Eilat, can I see these balconies?
Definitely. The whole idea is that it will be open to the public. It's open to the public all the time, and it's actually aimed as a tourist attraction also. That's why we actually are doing it, part of the reason we are doing it. So from there on, we go and design corals. We actually go and say, okay, it's not enough to go and use the natural corals. Let's do them differently and better. So one thing is to check coral structures. So using 3D printers, and along with the design program, or actually lab in the Technion by Professor Ezri Tarazi, we design different structures of corals. Then we test them both in the lab but underwater. This is a test. Again, we can see here ASA testing for water flow. And the next thing, we test them the different shapes of corals. You can see them here, different shapes of corals put on an artificial structure in the underwater observatory. And we check, how do the fish like them? Do they like them as much as the natural corals around? Or do they reject them altogether, and who cares what this plastic thing is and why are they there? And Well, I wouldn't tell you actually if it wasn't like that. We actually have designs that the fish like better than the natural corals, which is really exciting. And now we know the features of the spacing and how to do it. So we have structures that are better than before. So this is not enough. Now we want to grow coral tissue and to put on these structures. But that's not enough.
Nadav, how do you actually, I mean, I'm fascinated by this, and I'm sure our audience is also, by the way, that if you have a question and you're a participant, just click on the Q&A function. I know a number of questions are building. Some people want to know, how do we actually know that the fish like the plastic or the 3D printed coral better than the regular?
Oh, it's pretty easy. You come and count them both day and night. You count how many fish reside inside the coral or the plastic, both at the day and at night. So you find where they sleep, you find which species sleep in where they find shelter, and that's the easy one. Or you put a camera and you watch their behavior. And we did both of them, and so we also did some tests in the lab, but that doesn't really count. Now, but what we do to make more resilient corals, we use something which is called a chimera. A chimera is an organism that is built from two different organisms. So in this case, corals planulae, the early stage of them, when they settle, there is a stage where they can merge, and then they create one big coral, like here, and they go into a single colony, still keeping the conditions or the properties of each. So you take a coral that you got it to be resilient to temperature, for example, and you take another one that is a bit more resilient to light, and you do it by what's happening. You put them in high light and you see who's spawning and so on. And then you put them next to each other and you put them in the right conditions, they merge, and now your colony is resilient to both properties. So you get this way a much more resilient coral. But now here comes the tricky part. We don't want to have just two polyps or something like that. What we want to get 100 of them merging with each other, and then put them next to each other on our special plastic that we designed before, and then to cover it with 3D print, with coral tissue that will cover the 3D printed coral. And now we'll grow the corals much, much faster. The structure itself will be also pretty strong. And this way we'll actually get them to be more resilient, but also grow faster, and we can actually, this way, increase the resilience of the reef. Now, this is a bit of science fiction. It will take us, I would say, another 5 years at least. We'll get better, much better than that. There was significant improvement done actually in the Florida Keys recently, so we are working with them, but that's where we are aiming. And I think I'm on time, actually. Pretty much surprising. I never done that. So any questions? Anybody wants to come in and see how things going? Please do.
Okay, so we have lots of questions building. I'm going to ask a couple right now, and then we're going to move to Ord and then come back to some of these questions. So can you just comment a little bit? Obviously, this is you're solving climate change, major problems. And in fact, as part of BGU's new strategic plan, Danny Shamovitz, the president's going to be creating a new climate school for climate change and impacts on the climate. We're very excited about that. Can you talk a little bit about global warming and the effect of that on in the water of the Red Sea, and how that leads to coral erosion, and then how your plastic artificial reef actually create the environment for food to grow back naturally?
Okay, what's happening in the world as the ocean is getting more acidified, more CO2 is in it, and there are waves of hot water which are killing the coral reefs in many places like the Great Barrier Reef. However, due to the evolutionary development of the Red Sea, the coral that are in the northern Red Sea especially, and also the coral which are in the Persian Gulf, and we have collaboration there, are more resilient to high temperature than other corals. So the coral that we have right now, and we are working with them, probably give us about 25 to 50 years of leeway that we can actually survive or manage the corals before they are hit by the high increasing temperatures. Which means that if we'll be able to find what are the conditions and how to do that, we can transfer these corals or their planulae to create chimeras with corals elsewhere, and this way give the resilience to other reefs which are suffering.
Thank you. We're getting some questions about plastics. In other words, we're taught that plastics are bad for the environment. And in this case, your theory is that plastic's actually good for the environment. Can you elaborate on that? Okay, we don't want to put plastics forever in the environment. And even the plastics we use are bioplastic, which biodegrade eventually. The only idea is to test structures. Eventually, we will move to other materials. We are testing clays, for example, but plastics are much better in printing, for example. So this will come later. One last question. This one's from Stuart Karlinski. Thank you, Stuart. He's asking, is the coral resistant to warmer water better able to be cloned and then implanted, let's say, into the Great Barrier Reef? The Great Barrier Reef are actually working exactly on that. They are now looking more at AIMS, the Australian Institute of Marine Science, are looking more at corals from the Persian Gulf because they are getting their much higher temperature and moving them or actually getting fragments from them to the institute they have in Queensland, and to check if it's possible either to clone them or to find what are the properties that are creating this resilience. And there was just recently, about 2 weeks ago, a publication claiming that they actually found out what are the properties that actually giving this heat resilience. And do you collaborate directly with universities or companies in Australia? Oh yeah, definitely. We actually developed together the first ever job training or vocational education training, first in Australia, but now we're going to implement it other places in coral restoration and conservation. Or actually in marine habitat conservation and restoration. That's our feature. Thank you very much. Sure, pleasure. Okay, or Haviv, our final panelist, as if that wasn't amazingly interesting between Yaniv and Nadav. We could keep doing this for another hour. Or is the partner and head of RALE Ventures and the co-founder and CEO of what's called the Eilat Hub. He's an alum of BGU, who we're very proud of. And he's also a member of the 5th cohort of our AABGU Zinn Fellows Leadership Program, or leads the creation of early stage growth and investment platforms, generating high net worth portfolios and investments at RALE Ventures, which is a New York-based holdings company while he lives in Israel. At the Eilat Hub, Israel's most southern innovation ecosystem, Or is responsible for developing and managing the burgeoning high-tech industry. Or received a decoration for excellence from the IDF's commander-in-chief for his service in the IDF Special Forces. He completed his BA in electronic business management from the Dominican University of California and his MA in conflict management and resolution from Ben-Gurion University. And Or, you're from Eilat, correct?
Grew up in Eilat, yeah, not born and raised, but definitely the great first half of my life is definitely in Eilat. The second professional half is actually from California, the Silicon Valley. And if that's okay, I can share the presentation. And
please do. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you all. And I really, really enjoyed listening to everything Yaniv and Nadav had to share. So let's just share the presentation. All right. Just let me know you all see it all right.
We see it.
Good. So I started to time myself. So again, my name is Or. Thank you for the opportunity and thanks for the great people behind ABGU. I'm going to dive right in. Eilat Hub, the most southern innovation ecosystem in Israel. It's amazing to think, connecting to what Yaniv just said, as someone who grew up in Eilat, that only 4 short years ago, if you had a startup, you had to leave Eilat in order to grow it. And today, Eilat Hub, in less than 4 years, actually, if you take Corona time out, it's less than 3 years, it was ranked as the 6th fastest growing ecosystem in Israel, which means that it's the 6th best place to grow your startup in Israel. And as a country that is ranked one of the top 3 ecosystems in the world, that's quite a saying. In Eilat, we have several verticals that we're advancing, which are based on the local assets that basically are around. And let's start, before we dive into the assets, let's start to talk about location. So a few facts that maybe few of you knew or didn't know about Eilat. So number 1, it's an international tourist destination. Eilat is essentially the Hawaii of Israel. That's where people arrive to relax and unwind. It was determined by the New York Times as one of the world's most beautiful bays that you must see. I have to say that when I wake up every morning to this bay, it's definitely inspiring. The next fact is that it's the 4th largest regional council, or the region that the city of Eilat has under its belt is the 4th largest in Israel, roughly 25,000 acres, which is very important for the potential of growth, both in industry and in population. The next is Israel's leading ocean and sea research institutes residing here in Eilat. We'll talk about it in a second. The next fact is that Eilat is a tax-free zone. Actually, right now I'm broadcasting from Eilat Hub, which, as we say, is the most southern hub in Israel for startups and for technology companies. And we are situated in not just a tax-free zone, but a free port zone that is entirely different set of tax regulations and benefits for companies and investors. And one of, I think, the most important points is that the fact that Eilat is a natural land bridge connecting Eastern and Western countries, where the trade routes go straight through it. And when you think about it, together with Eilat's international seaport, as well as an international airport, which is brand new and just opened last year, that puts Eilat in a whole new level as far as economic potential and development. So let's jump into the Eilat Tech Center's verticals. So these are all verticals that we're active in and that are building upon Eilat's natural and man-made, man and women-made assets. Travel technology, agriculture technology, desert technology, marine biology and aquaculture, shipping and trade, energy, and smart cities. Let's start by talking about the most important thing, which is our collaboration with Ben-Gurion University. As you know, we have a beautiful campus here and great teachers and great programs and amazing students. So one of the first things that Eilat Tech Center did is connect to the beautiful assets and university and the professors and the students. We ran many different programs together. Obviously, we're all about innovation. So that's what we do. And I'll give you a couple of examples. We ran an accelerator that's called Eilat Hub Boost BGU. We worked with amazing students that had amazing ideas, and they received the tools of how do you build a startup, which is a very important part in today's academic cycle, when people think not just what am I going to study, but how am I going to commercialize it? How am I going to bring it out to the world? You saw the amazing work that Nadav is doing. This is not just academic research. It goes out and it changes the world. The next thing that we've done is a biotech program, again, focusing on more the biotech field. Obviously, we've done an amazing session in the Silicon Valley together with BGU, and we had Ben-Gurion graduates and that's that picture on the right here, Ben-Gurion graduates that we located that are now managing companies, technology companies in the Silicon Valley. And we had an amazing session that, you know, they told their story about BGU and why they chose BGU, and it was very exciting. Let's talk about the Eilat Sea-Tech ecosystem. Yaniv mentioned it, and obviously Nadav explained more of the technical part, but sea-tech and ocean technology is nothing short of one of the most impactful industries in the world, directly impacting over 200 million people around the world. It is estimated in worth of over $3 trillion per year, which counts to about 5% of the global GDP, okay? So nevertheless, although it's a huge industry, it is estimated by the UN that every year global community bears huge financial losses caused by ocean pollution and exploitation that raises over $83 billion a year, okay? Which means there's a lot of room for innovation and to fix the planet through that. We all understand that oceans affect our climate, trade, and everything. So very important, let's see what does Eilat have to offer the world of innovation in sea and ocean technology. Let's start from the top right corner. Ben-Gurion University in Eilat. You saw just a glimpse of the amazing work that is led by Nadav and Yaniv and the entire team there. That's cutting edge research, and that's very important. The second amazing institute that's in Eilat is the Inter-University Institute that combines many different researchers from many different universities, both from Israel and abroad, and provides an amazing infrastructure to do research on many different levels. And on the bottom, you see the Oceanography Research Institute that does a lot of, let's call it food from the sea, right? So basically, a lot of people call it the future of food. And basically, it leads cutting edge research when it comes to fish and many different solutions for aquaculture, etc. And on the left, we have something that is a game changer for the ecosystem that started with the Eilat Hub in the arrival of Arieli Capital, which is the organization that I work for, and that leads the professional side of Eilat Hub together with the Eilat municipality and the amazing work with the Mayor Yitzhak Halevi, an amazing team. At the end of the day, Arieli Capital changed the game because it's the first time ever in history that a global holdings company and investment company plants an office in such a periphery location and starts to build hands-on an ecosystem, starts to work with startups, starts to provide and open international markets. One of the most important things for the sea-tech ecosystem is that Arieli Capital just launched one of the world's largest innovation centers for ocean tech and deep sea research in China, which opens an entire new realm of possibilities to commercialize and take startups that are not just going to arrive to Eilat to do their research and use all these amazing IP and professors and labs and everything that Eilat has to offer, but will also have the next jumping board to connect to the global ecosystem, to global companies, access to capital, etc. That's what makes the difference usually that holds back ecosystem from growing. So when you put everything together, academic, research, labs, access to the Indian Ocean, this is not a lake, okay? And infrastructure, accelerator and incubators, access to global markets and access to funds and investment, that's a complete ecosystem that has the potential that Yaniv said that we're just tapping into, but Eilat is definitely poised to become one of international hubs thanks to, for ocean tech, thanks to this amazing ecosystem. Another amazing thing that connects to what Yaniv is leading also, which is the tourism school, which is one of the verticals of Eilat, is growing tourism-related technologies. And that's one of the programs that we're also leading. You can see just a few of our industry strategic partners. Obviously, we have amazing other strategic partners, including Ben-Gurion and many others. At the end of the day, it's a program that is designed to connect, to identify relevant travel technologies and connect them to these amazing partners that you see here. By the way, in the last event, which we broadcasted just, I think it was 3 weeks ago, over 700 people registered from around the world. And you see this logo here on the right, which is very exciting. Etihad Airlines, which is the official national airline of the Emirates, also sat on the board of this amazing event and helped us to choose something that's very interesting and also connects to what Yaniv said. One of the startups that was the finalist in our event offered an accessibility travel platform, which is something that is also led in the Ben-Gurion campus in Eilat. This program is touching upon this incredible market with incredible potential and incredible need for technology in order to allow people with disabilities to have travel platform that's going to help them. By the way, the startup that actually won this startup competition is actually inventing a digital health passport. So when you travel, your health passport travels with you and allows you to do a lot of different things. Today in Corona, we all can understand the impact. Eilat, for example, today is a green island, which is the only thing that allows it to work, for the hotels to open, etc. So a digital passport can make all the difference in today's ecosystem. So that's just in a little glimpse about the Mossad innovation ecosystem in Israel. Is something that we're really, really proud of. It's growing tremendously. And I want to say that at the end of the day, and that's my final statement, to connect to what Yaniv said, the better Ben-Gurion is going to be, the more quality education is going to produce, the more amazing people it's going to produce, the higher chances of periphery areas it is to lose those people, unless there is the second part of the triangle that comes in, which is industry. And that's exactly what we're working on, diversification of options and possibilities, specifically innovation options, startups, high-tech, to allow these amazing things to happen. And one amazing light in the end of the tunnel, remember the old airports. For those of you that landed in Eilat, the old airport of Eilat is, as we speak, is turning into the first high-tech building in Eilat. And very soon you'll see in all the amazing work that we do, much more there. So Doug, back to you.
Thank you very much. So why don't you stop share and then we'll open up the panel. So for those of you who haven't had a chance to ask any questions, just click on the Q&A function and we'll do our best in the closing minutes to get to your questions. One topic that's come up from a number of people has to do with the United Arab Emirates. Has the recent accords changed your thinking, or as it relates to the science or the tourism industry? And any of our speakers could take that question. Nadav?
Well, about the tourism, I really don't know, but I do know that we are now working on opening collaborations with the Emirates, specifically in the area of Fujairah, which they are now developing and planting lots of corals there. So we are, in fact, tomorrow morning, I'm having a meeting with somebody from there, Abu Dhabi.
Our understanding is that there's a keen interest in learning more about desert science, agriculture in the desert, also aquaculture.
Can I take it, Doug?
Sure, please, Yaniv.
So I would like to relate to it on two levels. First, the peace agreements with the United Arab Emirates and as well as other countries has a major effect on the tourism industry in general, and specifically about the hotel and tourism industry in Eilat. People have to take into account that a lot of Israelis are already there or planning their vacations in the United Arab Emirates. It's less expensive than Israel, and it's a very interesting place to be, and people are curious to be. So I'm thinking about the hotel and tourism industry. It could have a major negative effect on people in Israel and specifically on the people in Eilat. Taking it to another level, there is an option that people from the United Arab Emirates will come to learn in Israel, because we can offer probably a great learning experience, and it's actually for them, it's very, very cheap. So they can go to a very highly ranked universities in Israel, including, of course, Ben-Gurion University, instead of going to other places. Ben-Gurion University right now is putting some effort to attract people from the United Arab Emirates because we are very well known in the spirit of innovation. And here, specifically Eilat, the university, as well as what the organization of Or Haviv, we can provide them a learning experience, a quality learning experience, which for them, it's actually very cheap.
Or do you have a comment on this subject?
Yeah, I mean, we're experiencing, I mean, since this thing was announced, you know, Israelis don't have, like in a car, you know, you have the first gear, second gear, third gear. Israelis have the first gear and sixth gear. So just like this, you know, as soon as they announced this thing, there were flights and the phone was ringing and people were talking, and how can we do business and do different things. So there's a lot of opportunities. I think there's a lot of a bubble that's going to actually also burst, and then the dust will settle and actually find the common denominators and work. But definitely one of the things that we're feeling a lot of attraction is, number one, desert agriculture and farming, which is a lot of assets. You know, Ariel is also leading an amazing, actually the largest innovation center when it comes to desert farming with Ramat HaNegev, by the way, right next to the Ben-Gurion campus. So there's a lot of attention for that. Tourism is also a great thing. I do not think we need to see, obviously it is competition, but I don't think we need to see it as competition, because the Eilat Bay can host, if we don't see it as competition, but rather as an, let's say, added value, we can add things, just like Yaniv said, we can also add things in tourism that they do not have. They'll come here to see, such as, you know, amazing historical sites and everything. So it can multiply the amount of tourists that arrive to the area if managed in a smart way. But definitely tourism is also a big thing. And I think that ocean tech and aquaculture and, you know, water technologies and there's a lot of common assets and interests. So I think that we're all in the same region. At the end of the day, from here to there, you know, within 1-2 hours flight, you know, you're everywhere in the region. So I see a lot of places for collaborations.
Okay, we're going to thank you. We're going to have to wrap up. Yaniv, I want you to answer the last question, and I'll just make some closing comments. Luciano Kolodny is also one of our Zinn fellows. He's asking a question about what you said at the very beginning, which is, why would there be a Jewish flight, if you will? Why would people leave Eilat without BGU's presence there?
Okay. We are now aware that in big cities, doesn't matter where they are, if the new generation, the young generation, they don't have a place to learn, they don't have an institution which can inspire them. And we call it an inspiring generation, those people who create, those people who are working in developing things. If they will not be able to learn in Eilat, they would leave Eilat. Unfortunately, this is the case. Tel Aviv is investing huge amount of money in attracting young people to Tel Aviv. My observation is that if the elite of Eilat will not have the option or will not have a university there, they will move to Tel Aviv, they will move to Jerusalem, they will move to Haifa. When the elite will leave Eilat, all the other people would leave Eilat. We are aware of this situation. This is right now why so many cities around the world wants to have universities in their area. In Israel, this is very complicated, because if the university in Eilat will be closed, the next city is Mitzpe Ramon. And this is dangerous for the future of Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Yaniv. So for those panelists who participants who joined us, we had over 150 register. We've held our audience almost the whole time. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope you feel like you learned something. I personally love to see the dolphins interacting and playing with people when they're trying to install the coral barriers, those little balconies. Please join us for our next hashtag webinar Wednesday on January 6th, where we're co-sponsoring with the American Friends of Soroka Hospital, a webinar on cutting edge cancer research. David Ben-Gurion, the founder and first prime minister of Israel, and the guy who we're fortunate enough to have his name on the door of our university, once said that words without deeds are nothing. One must show by way of example. We are about to start the Hanukkah holiday, the Festival of Lights, and I just want to thank you, Yaniv, you, Nadav, and Or, for being a light and for your deeds that back up your words that make Israel a better place, that are great shining examples of the remarkable work at Ben-Gurion University and ultimately the contribution of the Jewish homeland to the world. So have a very Chag Hanukkah, happy Sameach, and thank you all for joining us. Be safe and stay healthy.